rare footage of extinct animals. Number 3. The thylacine. What you're seeing is the very last thylacine to ever exist. Farmers gave bounties to everyone shot and killed, leading to their numbers to dwindle. This thylacine died in captivity in 1936, and though others have come forward with spotty footage, no real proof has been shown that these still exist. Number 2. Lonesome George. Widely known as the last Pinta Island tortoise. He was found in 1971 and immediately taken into captivity, as he was already the last of his kind. Though he lived over 100 years, his inevitable demise came sooner than later. His cells were then kept in a lab, and hopefully one day will be used to bring back the species from extinction. Number 1. The black rhino. None were found in the wild for more than 5 years before people announced their extinction in 2011. They were ran to extinction due to excessive poaching. Their horns were cut off and sold in the black market. Either way, it's highly unlikely we will ever see these animals again.
Creatures in the Backrooms, Part 5. These entities are called the chickens. Yes, you heard that right. The chickens. They're just like normal chickens, except they're a lot bigger. It's possible that these are shape-shifting creatures due to their glowing eyes. Sightings of a large crocodile with glowing eyes seem to support the theory that they might be the same creature. The chickens are extremely stupid. If you approach one of them, they'll start squawking extremely loudly and start chasing you. However, after a few steps, it will fall flat on its face. When it does this, it will flip over and then stand on the ceiling apparently, and it will keep squawking at you until you leave the area. These creatures are usually found on level 5, but they can also be found on level 3. If you encounter one on level 3, it will also try to hurt you with its claws.
Here's a short, scary story. It was 1 a.m. and Calvin sat in his dark living room. The accident from earlier that evening just kept replaying over and over in his head. He was in his car and the light turned red, but he was in a hurry, so he just accelerated. All of a sudden, he saw an orange blur, and before he knew it, there was a body on top of his car that slid down onto the pavement beside him. A bicyclist rolled across his hood and fell out of sight. Horns started blazing and he panicked and he just drove off into the darkness. So now he just sat at home thinking, you idiot, how could you do that? And then he heard a knock on his door. It was the police. He started freaking out. He knew he couldn't afford a lawyer. He just began explaining, I'm sorry, officer. But the police officer just stood there and said, are you Calvin? I'm sorry, but your son was in a hit-and-run accident. He died on impact. I'm sorry for your loss.
This is why you should always watch what you say in public. In the late 1970s, a man began breaking into homes in order to assault the families inside of them. After dozens of attacks and no suspects in custody, the citizens were totally on edge, so the police decide to host this town hall meeting so they can discuss the situation out in public. During the meeting, a local man stands up and says, I would totally kick that guy's ass if he came anywhere near my wife. Then, in a crazy, ironic turn of events, that angry man and his wife become the next victims. Following their assault, the attacker completely changes his behavior. He goes from kind of petty home invader to full-blown serial killer, targeting only married men and their wives. When decades later, police finally identify Joseph D'Angelo as the killer, as they're going through old photos from the case, they make a startling discovery about his motives. D'Angelo had attended that town hall meeting.
Creepy Facts, Part 64. The first person to have ever received a face transplant was 9-year-old Sandeep Kaur in 1994. Sandeep required this surgery after her hair was caught in a thresher ripping off her entire face. Her parents actually arrived at the hospital carrying her severed face in a plastic bag. And if you're brave enough, there are pictures.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew, Part 16. Kangaroos are absolutely terrifying, and if you mess with one, it will likely lure you into the water and attempt to drown you. There's an abandoned Disney park that you aren't allowed to go to, and it was shut down in 1999 because it was infested with free-roaming alligators. The animals were being abused, and an 11-year-old boy died from a flesh-eating bacteria found in the park's waters. In the movie The Wizard of Oz, the lion's costume was made out of a real skinned lion. This is the John Lawson house. No one knows who lives there, but every single day, there are several female mannequins sitting on the front porch wearing a variety of clothing. Their positions and outfits change daily, and many believe this is meant to convey some sort of message. And in 1871, a train crash took place just 200 feet away from the home, killing 22 people. And these mannequins are always pointing toward the crash.